You don't wanna see me in the street. Get down. Packing word instead of packing heat. I'm a soldier. Hey. Soldier. Hey. Soldier.
Welcome to the chopping block. Dr. Richie and the Chief. And we're back to talk today, Dr. Richie. You know, we talked about problems. Everybody's got problems. There's problems everywhere in the world. But when it comes to drugs, the problems of drugs in America, what kind of solutions do we have? What do you say when somebody calls you up, a mom, calling about her son or a husband, or whatever it might be? What kind of calls do you get, and what do you tell them?
It's a few ways. You know, a lot of times there's people that have come to your program and you'll call me to work with them. They need some therapy or they need a letter because they come into the criminal justice system. The people who I come in contact, a lot of times it's everyday people. I see them at the gym and I'm just a very social person. They'll be like, hey, my daughter or my brother or people I grew up with, they call me out of nowhere. And so it's not like a official professional thing, because a lot of times because of my profession, you can't have like dual relationships. So if it's a family friend or something, you're like, well, I can't be your therapist, but I have the knowledge so I can kind of talk to you and let you know which way to go. So a lot of times, kind of like we did these last few episodes, I'll just kind of run my story, because if you start barking at people, addicts are oppositional. If some addicts were here and we had a show or whatever, they probably wouldn't think much about this. But if we said beforehand, hey, you guys, don't focus too much on this and don't touch that, there'd be people trying to touch it and focus on it. So a lot of times we use paradoxical interventions on the therapeutic tip, which is like reverse psychology, you know, or something called prescribing the symptom. Drug addiction is rarely just drug addiction. We've got anxiety with it. We've got depression. We've got PTSD. We've got so many things that are within it. A lot of times people are self-medicating for psychiatric or medical problems, but then the addiction becomes its own thing. So the solution, though, is in many ways always the same thing. And you had mentioned some of those things in general last episode, where it is changing your associates. If you're hanging around with a bunch of dope fiends that are using, it's going to be really hard not to use, you know. If you don't have the knowledge about it, I remember I was at Detox years ago, and I was there for a long time because I had a big habit, and alcoholics would come in looking bad. They'd get some Ativan in 3 days, they're brand new, looking great. They go out, and they'd come back 3 days later, tore up again. I'm like, dude, what happened? 3 days? They'd be like, well, I had to take my meds, and then there was a bottle with a little vodka and I did it. Next thing I know, I'm at the bar. Well, there's something called the phenomenon of craving, you know. For me, say for example, you had a bunch of crack cocaine and $1 million here and you're like, Richie, which one do you want? I'm like, I'll take the million. I hate crack. And you're like, cool. All you got to do is take a hit of crack and then you could choose the million or the rest of the pile. Now, even with the million, I could go out and buy crack, but probably what would happen, I'd take that first hit and then I'd just smoke the rest of it, F off the money, and be left with nothing. It takes and it takes and it takes. So it has a life of its own. It is medical, physiological, it's psychological, it's spiritual. We end up, God doesn't leave us or forsake us, but we end up checking out on him, you know? Yeah. That's how I see it, brother, in terms of some of the dynamics, you know?
Yeah, I get phone calls 7 days a week, 7 nights a week, all hours, all times, because I've been doing this for a good season. So people that I've helped, people that I've encouraged, people I work with, they'll tell somebody who tells somebody who tells somebody. And so I offer free consultation. I offer free advice. I offer
solicited and unsolicited.
Yeah, both. You know, like I said, because I try to help people. But my typical call, a couple of the calls that I got today were, for instance, one girl, she calls up and says, I need a place. I say, what are you using? She goes, meth and heroin. I go, where are you staying right now? Well, I'm at my mom's house. I go, do you have any children? Yeah, I've got children. Well, if I get you into a place, who's going to watch your children? I don't know. So that's one set of circumstances I'm dealing with. And then I'm dealing with a over-the-hill guy, a guy who's over 40 and is shooting heroin, and he's crying now, I want to change my life. I want to give my life to God. A lot of times people will think if you give them one Bible verse, say a prayer for them, everything's going to be all right, because I find out most people are trying to let's make a deal with God. And I found out that God doesn't make deals. You know, God wants to hear from the heart when you're really ready. Then I'll have people come. I can get you into our Beans and Rice Jesus Christ Detox Ranch, which is hardcore.
No frills.
I mean, no TVs, no telephones, no pills, and
no drugs either. Like most places, somebody's throwing a racquetball filled with dope over it. So, or they come in with dope. You're like, I thought you came to rehab to get clean. Well, yeah, just in case what? So the mind of an addict is so tricky, man, because, you know, whenever we search them in the beginning, and it's all respectful and they know what's going on, but there's always something, oh, I forgot about that, you know?
Yeah, so when the people call up like that, I got to find out where they're at. You know, when you go to the doctor will ask, where does it hurt? And if the client doesn't tell the doctor where it hurts, then the doctor doesn't know what to do. So I found out after many years of experience, I get down to the point, what is your situation? What's the drugs? Where are you living? How come you're not living there anymore? What happened? You have a mom, you have a dad, you have family, friends, you have kids, all this stuff. So we get down to the point. It's a little interview on there because I've got to find out where they're coming from, because most family members want their family that's addicted to get help more than they want help for more than the addict wants help.
Way more.
So until somebody wants that help, there's really nothing I believe that I can do or you can do.
Right.
And then when I tell them I believe in a higher power, that knocks a whole lot of them out of the box too, because, well, I'm mad at God. I don't believe in God. I've been there before, so I understand of it. That's very cool and stuff like that. But I run a faith-based program. But if you hate God, I'll work with you. I love you.
Because at least you're believing if you hate, you know?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And now I get the people that got busted. They got arrested, so they got to go to court. So I need my friend Dr. Richie to be able to write the judge to plead on their behalf. Hey, they got a sickness, they got a disease. And then on the other half of my mind, though, I'm going, but it's got a choice you got to make today.
That's right.
And your muscle... This brain is a muscle, and you got to work it out. It's atrophied, you know, and it needs help and stuff like that. So we got to renew our mind.
Yeah.
So you got to get away from those people that you're hanging out with, and we got to get away from mama enabling you, you know, keeping you supplied with enough money just to be sick and tired, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And then I get the other kind of person, the people that have, I got good insurance, you know, I go at this. And so they take that insurance as a American Express card that I'll go to any program. I'll go to Betty Ford. I'll go over there to Dr. Drew. I'll go over here with this and everything like that. And it isn't the program as much as it is the person.
Yes.
We both found out the client, the resident, that person that needs help. When they're at that place, a lot of times they're at that place just because they're hurting. Help.
Desperate.
And they'll take anything at the time, you know.
Make deals.
Yeah, they'll make deals with God. They make deals with me. They make deals with you, what we can do. So you never know. And to live with a person is to know a person. So when they come into our program, whatever program they come into, if they've got money, they can have insurance over here. And then you have meds. You have Suboxone. You know, have Subutex.
Oh, man, that's the most important thing to them. Like, you could mess up in any other area. If the meds are holding up or anything, you got some angry clients. And what's radical is, like you talked about a little bit of the changes. Truth is stranger than fiction. We'll have people that are telling stories. Man, 2 days ago, me and the homie or me and my lady were shooting up and we had to get the water out of a Jack-in-the-Box toilet and just dumpster diving and all that. But then in like a week, they're like, I only drink Voss from the glass and I'm vegan and shit. And you're like, well, dude, you were just begging, I'll do anything. And you're like, well, not that, you know, you won't sweep now? And that's when they're getting a scholarship, you know? And so you're a unique man, bro, because a lot of people call me, I'm willing to help, but I'm not going to be like, yeah, come over and stay. Like, you've taken thousands upon thousands of people in, you've had homes, multiple homes, you've done it, man, the real deal. And that's, I think, one reason you get hundreds of thousands of calls. I mean, it's never ending with your phone. Right now, it's off the hook. The call center of 10 people are just doing it. But the thing is, how has it been that you've been willing to take people in, actually, like, you're the real deal, I'll help you, because the buck stops there with you. Everybody else like, yeah, okay, I know I got a call, and then we call you. So how do you do that, man?
Well, let's do this, you know. Those of you out there, I'd like to get your questions.
Yes.
I'd like to get your questions, you know, for your loved one or for yourself. And that way, on our next program, we can answer those questions, because it's the viewing audience. It's America. It's all of us. We all got a family member, alcohol, drugs, this, that, whatever it might be. And so we'll
dude, the phone lines are already lighting up, man. It's off the hook. We're going to have something on the screen to give them the number.
Yeah, we'll be doing something, putting up the number and, you know, email and all that stuff. But send us your questions, you know, your help and stuff like that, because we have some type of help for everybody, but we can only give what that person's willing to do. For instance, you have somebody who says, I want to get off of heroin. Okay, what are you willing to do to get off of heroin? And if you're willing to surrender, do anything, go any place like that, I can help you out. But if you just give me a little box and say, well, I'm only willing if I get some good insurance and I get some meds, a slow taper, a nice place with Netflix and pills and TV.
Hot chicks that you could live with, and you're like, well, what were you willing to do to get it? I'd suck D for it. Okay, so you got to go to any lengths to get clean. And that's the only thing is, you want to have that same motivation. If you have half the motivation in recovery and in treatment that you had and you're using, you're going to make it. But getting that motivation and having it stick is hard.
In closing, Dr. Richie, on this episode right here, I want you to speak into that camera and speak to every man, woman, young person that's got a family member or themselves dealing with something. And this was going to be the last time you'd ever get to give them some suggestions, some counsel, some advice, some type of something from all the years you've been doing this. What would you give them the last words as you're on your deathbed and you're getting ready to go to heaven? What would you tell them?
Jesus Christ. But I'd also say, my heart goes out to you. It's a tough problem. It's a real problem. There's no easy solution, but don't lose hope. And, prayer, following the steps. There's so many different ways to do it, but it's got to come from within, and you really got to want it. We don't browbeat people. So when people come in, we're not telling them you got to do this. So if you're trying to push them into getting clean, it usually makes them want to use more. So just be there, let them talk to you. Maybe they want to talk to somebody else, not you, have them call in. But like what Chief said about giving us questions is great, because we could go hours and hours and write volumes of books. But what you want to know, the viewer, we want to, have it be what you want it to be. So please, send in some questions, and then we can answer the specific questions of the viewers, the audience.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Let me leave you with this for today's show. I know how hard it is when you have a loved one that you see him hurting, you see him in pain, you see him start stealing your stuff. You start seeing their kids wondering where their daddy is or where their mommy is. You start seeing them get in court situations, going to jail. You see their health deteriorating. All of the above starts happening. What can you do? This is the place, like I said, you need to find a place that can help them out. When I work with anybody, I'll try to help anybody in every way. I've tried to find ladies, in their children's homes. I try to find people someplace detox, someplace, try to help people find jobs and everything like that. But everybody's an individual. God made us all as unique individuals. We're all made in the image of God. And it's so important to me to bring the God part into this whole situation, because to me, that's where we get wisdom and guidance and everything Dr. Richie shared that he's learned after his 17 years of formal education. I go, that's all truth that I learned from the Bible, just in different words, but it's all the same truth together. So here you have a couple old cats who want to help. So send in your questions, send in your needs and stuff. Like, we do want to help you. And remember, as long as they're alive, as long as they're breathing, there's still hope.
That's right.
There's still hope. And when a person's drowning on the sea of life and you want to try to save them, they're going to pull you down because they're hurting. They're in pain.
And they're scared.
It's not a personal thing. They're scared. They're afraid. They're going to die. Everybody really wants to live on there. So you can be that tool saying, you know what, I'm going to learn more about this addiction. I'm going to learn more about this higher power. I'm going to learn more about Dr. Richie and the Chief. I'm going to find out. I'm going to do something. And you can be the one that can help save that member of your family.
That's right.
You can be the one who will be that Joseph in there to be able to help feed your family and brothers, in the future. You can be that one, because none of us can do it alone. We're just all in this to help each other.
That's right.
So, hey, look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The Chopping Block. Dr.
I encourage
Richie?
you to stay tuned into The Chopping Block. We got so much good stuff coming, And Chief, once again, it's been a pleasure, bro.
Brother, we've just begun. We're going to be talking about drugs, sex, and rock and roll and everything else under the sun. Hey,
That's right.
go to heaven.
It's all yours, Lord. Everything that I have, Lord. I know it ain't much, Lord. Take all of me.
Solutions.
Ooh, when the light goes on, it's like that red light in the camera. You just, hey,
Action.
holla.